Smart 24, driving business.
Welcome again in our discussion on Smart TV, Smart 24 TV. And our topic of discussion as we continue in this second round, it is still focusing on the digital, the ICT education and new education curriculum policy. Is this the new move to reform the education sector? Together with us here, our guests, once again, we are still going on with Dr. Muganga Lawrence, the Vice Chancellor of Victoria University. And again, for those who have joined us, we have Mr. Paul Kawanguzi on our side. And this is our policy expert, again, who has been doing a lot of work relating with legal expertise. Dr. Kabera Pontius, it's a pleasure once again to be with you in this second round of our discussion, the education expert and head of Department of Education at Victoria University. We are proceeding on where we had reached, Doctor, and as you will be reflecting on what you already have as you are, I refer the good word you stated in giving up quality content, which you have for the viewers. There is a word in which the ministry were intending to address. It's a gap, cultural gap, and all over the country, in Uganda, there's been a debate in the public domain on whether if our students access the smartphone and the the ICT education, whether those who are at their level from secondary education, those who have reached at the level of secondary education, senior 1 up to senior 6, then maybe university, whether it may not have social implication, the negative social implication, especially to the youth, because there was also citing a challenge of abuse of the digital education, abuse of the ICT, abuse of the smartphones, to our young ones who are just, doing this self-discovery of who they are and with the technology. In your discussion, please remember, how are we going to make a balance of the two so that we march together with the current revolution, the fourth revolution. Again, also, another point I would wish, if at all it's possible, to also reflect on. You talked about revolutions, reformations, and we are dealing with reformation. Now, the education sector which needs reformations, a number of areas which we need reforms. Through your articulation and presentation, I believe we'll be able to pick also some reforms, key reforms that we continue to encourage the ministry to undertake so that Uganda can have a better education that is appreciated by all of us without any contestation. Thank you. I will come back.
Yeah, thank you very much. And dear viewers, when we went for the break, before actually we came, they even gave us an amazing Smart 24. Thank you very much. And the next time I'll come back without you inviting me. Great. I gave you a metaphor of a slaughtered goat and the person who actually killed it. And what I simply wanted to refer to is the ability of all stakeholders to take responsibility in educating the child. You talk about reform, revolutions. I have encouraged educators to move away from reform. We are into a transformation age. We transform now. In all my books, I have really advocated for transformation, and I'm glad one of my books, the Minister of Education, Honorable Janet Museveni, took interest in the book, You Can't Make Fish Climb Trees. But it talks about how do you transform education. Everything we are going to talk about here. Now, when I say everyone takes responsibility, we cannot change or transform education without leaving everything to government, leaving everything to education, something called education. I, as a parent, and everyone else, any community leader, anyone, you have to be responsible. And that responsibility calls upon us to understand three things. The ministry, or as a country, as government, they can understand what they want to do. They can also understand how they want to do it. But all of us as a country, we need to understand why do we even want to transform education, to enter this, to try and push our students into the digital era. One thing we need to understand why we're doing this is that we need to create a human capital, a productive human capital for this country, a human capital that can support itself, that can support their families, that can support their community, and can support the country, later on the world. If we understand the why. Now, we also have to appreciate the fact that education is now, or the economy we live in right now, is placed, if you look at the global perspective, within the fourth industrial revolution. That means everything can be done from where you are situated, anywhere, anytime. You don't need an office, you don't need anything else other than a computer, a phone, an iPad. As long as you have those gadgets, you have the entire world in your palm. That's where we are. Innovations, creativity, all things are happening because of technology right now. Now, if that is true, it means that if you don't have knowledge of this technology, then you're not going to fit in the fourth industrial revolution. You're not going to fit in the creative economy. You're not going to fit in the digital economy. Therefore, that's why I talked about the why. We have to educate our students to fit in those three economies I have talked about. And if we don't provide them, as Dr. Kabira said, the skills, and now do you know the skills we are talking about? The digital literacy skills. If you don't have them, trust me, your child, anyone's child is going to struggle in those economies. Now, the Ministry of Education is embracing technology, and we are embracing digital technologies to come into education. Let's understand a few facts, and which is an idea I welcome vividly because it transforms education. Ugandans, we have reformed education and reformed, and it doesn't work. We need to transform. Now, the digital, welcoming digital technologies into education, this is what we benefit. First of all, we empower the student with digital literacies. But how do we do this? I want everyone to remember that it is from the time education started, it is very, very hard to have a fully equipped library in any school around the country. It is very hard to have a very productive and fully equipped computer lab. It is very hard because it's too costly. You're going to ask government to push in money, resources into these facilities. Now, there is one way of actually leveraging what resources we already have, the phone. If you look at what is happening in Kampala, what is happening in Jinja, I understand there's kids in remote areas that don't have phones. But if we can find a way of embracing the phone in the classroom, that means you lessly need a library, you lessly need the computer lab. People can now access the most latest books, editions, through their phones, through their tablets, through their iPads, if we allow that to happen. But we should not be deterred by the fear of abusing these technologies. We should come up with policies, ways of how do we mitigate such abuse of these important resources that have come into the classrooms. All developed countries that we see, we admire, they have embraced these already existing technologies that we can use for us to spring from there and support our learners. Now, if you look at where we are going, we are no longer talking about the internet as we knew it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about learning using augmented reality. We are talking about learning using virtual reality. We are talking about teaching using the metaverse, the virtual universe, the virtual world. So if that technology has come, it means you can have these people trained, our students trained, and then they can work anywhere in the world without even leaving Uganda.
They can work anywhere in the world
without leaving Uganda. That right. means in the absence of jobs, and you don't have even, yes, you can blame government all you want, but jobs for officers are not going to come back. They are dying every day.
One second commentary. These days, what is so far, what he has stated, most organizations are no longer first requiring your job application to be a submission, of the we call it what, the hard copy.
Yeah, the hard copy. Bring it in.
So most of others, they are encouraging online application. Others they say send. by email. And others even they put a condition: if you dare to bring by hard copy, they will not consider you. So this is very.
And if there is anything COVID-19 has taught us, it is that the world is never going to be the same. That means people are going to work from anywhere, study from anywhere, and that's why, like now, as speaking as a Vice Chancellor of Victoria University, yes, that's why we deliberately chose to build the most formidable, the most interactive, the most seamless learning management system in this country, where it has accorded so many people to learn from anywhere, anytime, in the comfort of their homes, in the comfort of their workplaces, in the comfort of where they want to be situated. Why? Because we know that the world needs you to have these skills. Actually, some people have called it Africa's biggest classroom. That's the learning management system we have built. So we need to embrace these technologies, but in doing so, parents and all other stakeholders, we need to change our mindset about education. The education mindset we had in the 1990s, 2000, 2010, it is no longer applicable to the economies of today, the digital economy, the creative economy, the economies of the fourth industrial revolution. These require digital literacies. And now, who is supposed to produce the teachers we were talking about? Now, I want us to understand these things. Sometimes we blame government without also us looking at ourselves. Two frontiers I want to talk about. If yes, for sustainability reasons, you can train the teachers we have, fine. But if you train them and tomorrow they age out, who is going to replace them? Now, this is where I call upon government and all ourselves to refocus our mindset. And then higher education institutions like ours, Victoria University and others, we should change the way we teach. The way we teach, we should make sure that technology is predominantly part of how we teach. That technology is something is a basic requirement of a learner that comes to a university or any other tertiary institution. Why? Because the way they were taught, that's how they are going to go back and teach. Then we have a group of people that are going to replenish those who are exiting the system.
One question for you as we go to Mr. Paul.
Yes.
And in 2 minutes. I've followed up your discussion, very much vital to the viewers, but yet to have a balance. We realize if we are to not leave our discussion on paper and through this viewership, there are some key basic points that I find that we cannot go without making either an estimated way of how to do it best. We are talking about the stakeholders. We are talking about the parents. We are talking about the students, because they must also be in part of the cycle.
They are part of the stakeholders.
We are talking about the policymakers, the ministry, the members of parliament. That's the government. Then you are also talking about the law which teachers or institutions basically, the role of institutions, and that means the teachers and the assisting. And what leaves us a bit bothered, I use that word deliberately, is that if whenever we do an implementation of a policy without quantifying who does what, who should do what, to realize that 100%. Again, I couldn't want to have this discussion for more other 2 years.
Right.
I'm not, I'm a positivist.
Yes.
I'm a positivist, but yet I'm a result-oriented person. I do believe in, as per this policy, there should have been a deliberate quantification of what the government is offering to do. And my colleague talked about issue of prioritizing in terms of resource allocation. We are going to invest this to achieve this. And also your universities, and I will wait to hear from you, I know you have something to say. Also University of Victoria or other institutions of learning, it should be deliberate as per the instruction or directive of government. They are to implement, they are to invest into digital ICT by this percentage, according to the budget.
Correct.
The parents also, as you structure fees and so forth, you indicate that the parents are going to invest in this. But my worry, which I think we need to bring to the enlightenment of policy implementers, all that there is no quantification, and which worry brings us to a point that we can have this good policy, appreciate it, but the implementation remains a challenge.
Now let me tell you this, very, very simple, Dr. Tindiewa.
Yes, sir.
You know why it's very, very important, and I applaud you for bringing that forward. But let me tell you, these things are doable. Now, if a small university like Victoria University, right, we are able to provide education data to students, right, in a crisis like during the pandemic, such that learning can continue. If a small university like Victoria University...
Victor, who said this is small?
No, when I say small, we have bigger universities in this country. We are bigger by vision. Trust me.
That is...
Yes, we are bigger by vision. Thank you for correcting me. We are bigger by vision. We are bigger by becoming a model university in this country. We are bigger when it comes to being a technologically enabled university. We are bigger when we become the first university to implement experiential learning and work integrated learning. Now, here is what I tell you. If we can afford to provide education data to students, if we can afford to provide free textbooks to our students, if we can afford, let me tell you this, I think maybe most of you didn't know it. We are the first university that offered 10 bursaries to every member of parliament in this country. How many members of parliament do we have?
Every member.
Every member.
So that means I should take this information to my constituency.
Now that means
your
we have
constituents should get 10.
10. We asked every member of parliament, look for a young student who performed very well, but they are in need, and send them to us. 10. Why? We believe that once we educate those 10 people from every constituency, they get the meaningful education we provide at Victoria University. There is a multiplier effect that is going to happen in that very constituency. We believe that education should be localized. It should be real world, taken to where it is going to solve the problem. So in other words, we gave over 5,000 bursaries to all constituencies in this country. Why? Because that's now you ask about quantification of what everyone can do, right? We have set up we have provided education data for free to our students.
Yes.
We have provided free textbooks to every student that comes to us. If we can do these things, as a university, one university, a country and government can engage telecommunication companies like we did.
Yes.
And you talk to them and you say, we have kids that don't access internet in this country. What can you do to avail data or avail work with us to support these regions to get infrastructure needed? What can we do to have these digital textbooks?
Doctor, the point is, as you are stating it, I'm just applauding or emphasizing on the point. Dear viewers, Yes, dear viewers, what Doctor is saying is attainable.
It is.
And to me, I do direct it right away to the Ministry of Education and the ICT. You know the telephone contacts of these students.
Yes.
They know, because
Correct.
if it calls for you to submit all students' telephone contacts, that can be done. They submit them to the ministry and they declare a data-free policy for all students in Uganda. Because remember, there is also a cost to procure these smartphones, and this the alternative which goes to the computer. And still the government should make it deliberate. Either they say, we give a loan, the other time we talked about a loan, to these students whosoever
Yes.
goes to secondary, to university education. You are given a 50% covering by the government, and a 50% you pays in installment. That will be meaningful.
No, what you're talking about is right. For example,
Yes.
again, as Victoria University, we have deliberately chosen to give our students affordable laptops, right?
At what cost, sir?
At 60,000 per month.
Paying
And
installment.
yes, they can pay for in the next 2 years.
You do it as a university.
Yes, as a university. So that means, and our staff, so they are going to start receiving those affordable laptops, and which they can pay for the next 2 years, right?
Within the period.
Within a period of
60
2 years per month.
Per month.
Yes. So,
Okay.
which means a laptop, a very, very good laptop, cutting edge, would go for about 1.7 million.
Can
right?
it be a model so that it is taken over that scheme all over
No,
the
that's what
country?
I'm saying. I'm saying these things are doable because you engage these manufacturers and talk to them and reach a deal. If we can reach a deal, then government is superior, it's bigger. They can reach a deal. So these things are
I
doable.
ask you kindly, please make that recommendation. The ministry, in your capacity as a VC, if you write a recommendation, even without
Yeah.
passing through Parliament, it can be respected. Mr. Paul, you're welcome. Please give us your point of view. We are coming now. We are no longer discussing issues, but we have action. Either we do or we don't do, because that's what policy means. According to DAI, the government should do, we should also do, the people who are part of this cycle, or we don't do.
Correct.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph. You know, Doctor will tell you as a policy specialist that our discussion in terms of policy, we majorly target the biggest policy makers.
Sure.
Because for you, a local person, you have little you can do. But we know we have the top policy makers and implementers, and we're here, we're speaking to them. Because like I told you the other time, these people are here listening in. They're the people who listen to YouTube, the people who watch YouTube. Even when they're not listening, they'll go to YouTube and watch. Because they know on Saturday, we are here discussing serious matters of national importance. Now, for me, my concentration is on that side. The Ministry of Education, Parliament, ICT, that is where my concern is. This government, the sitting government with authority. Because now, even when we say let's have a mindset, it is okay. But if government doesn't actually do what it is supposed to do, then we cannot achieve it. For example, this policy has been brought by government. And your biggest question of the day has been, can digitalization sort the existing educational challenge? We all agreed and said yes. I even told you we were even late.
True.
And this was justified and seconded by Dr. Lawrence, who said we are still talking about the third industrial revolution. We're already in the fourth. As I said, we're already late. The biggest question of the day is how do we get there?
That's where we are.
And that's the point. That was my point of discussion. I am saying whatever proposal they are good. But what about, because you need to understand the challenges before. In policy, you must understand the problem. Once you understand the problem, now you address it. You say, this is how we are going to address this problem. I have told you, one, most of this, for example, I'm not looking at only universities. I am looking at education beginning from primary schools. Are we going to begin ICT from university? How about in a primary?
True.
We are looking at schools that don't even have seats. People who sit down in Uganda. Look at the infrastructure, the classrooms. Look at the mindset of the teacher who is riding a board every day to go and look for what? To go and look for extra supplement for income. To complement his income in earning. So my issue is, can we address those issues now? Can we afford the data? How about the gadgets? We are talking because doctor talked about the phone, using the phone. What is the cost of a usable phone? One that can actually last longer for use. Because we're not just talking about a phone that you'll buy today and again tomorrow is spoiled. A phone that can actually be used for research in a school, in a classroom. How much is the cost? Why is it that we're having these poor quality phones on the market being sold to us? Is it deliberate? Who is in charge of quality control? You buy a phone that cannot actually even function for 1 month? How about a parent who would have spent money on it? Can it really be of use? So how about the infrastructure? How does internet get to the villages? In Koboko, in Karamoja, in Uyende, in Kaliro. How does it get there? In Namutumba, in Kinkizi, in your constituency? It's called what?
That's Rwanda East.
Rwanda East. How does it get there? In the hills. Can people really access internet freely? Because we have agreed that for you to do research, we have agreed that internet is good for research, yes. But we need fast running what? Internet. Fast running, the quality of internet.
High speed.
High speed internet. How do we get there? That's why I'm saying that government must be deliberate. One, if it needs this thing to work, it must make sure that one, it increases on the budgetary allocation to the either, because these two ministries must work together. ICT and education. So you must increase funding because they complement each other for this particular cause. And like we are saying, we should not rush. Let's do fast things first. What do we need to get there? In case you need fast speed internet, you must invest in the fibers. You must invest there and make sure that there is a connection almost in the whole country because you're talking about equity. Can we make sure that internet is widely spread? It is everywhere. When you go to Mitiana, it is there. When you go to Kizing in my village in Jinja City, it is there. When you go to Uyende, it is there. You go to Guru, you go to Omoro, it is there. We're going for burial. So this is my point. Can we get there? At a policy level, this is what we need. We are saying, how about the quality of our teachers? Can they deliver technical, can they deliver this technical training? Because we have agreed, even just making an application, especially in serious organizations, you have to do it digitally. They have a form, you do it online. And by the way, do you know why most students have even failed to apply for jobs? They don't even have these skills of merely doing an application. They can't even upload a document. They cannot. Two, even in uploading, the internet is not even sustainable. You load for about 2 hours while they are eating your data.
Breaks down.
I think you are getting the whole thing. And you know, in most of the jobs, they emphasize you have the necessary computer skills. You have the necessary computer skills.
There's a trouble I'm fighting with in my mind.
Yes.
And this trouble takes us back to the class difference. When we are talking like this good English, they normally, my colleagues, they say, we're just talking good English. And, but the actual problem, you know. We go to enrollment of our students to secondary schools. And as far as the other time I said this, we are referring to Kija and Ndongo. There are some good villages, those names. Karamoja, he was talking about Kinkizi, you are talking about down there deep. Because the education, the quality and the equity. Education we are talking about of where it's of recent, there is also a cabinet position, which is still, I think was a cabinet position press release, which was about whether to suspend, to allow payment of school fees. And we are talking about the funding where our children, those who are going for secondary school, under these programs of universal secondary education, I'm not against it, I like it because it brings men on board, but they are struggling even to pay the other small portion of amount of money, which is like equal to lunch. And the parents also, they are struggling. Our economy is not, the enabling environment is not all that promising for them to even enable their children access this education. It has come at a time when there is even the COVID effect on our economy and socio-economic livelihoods. How are we going to drive towards that to make it a reality?
Equity.
So this is where I am. I am saying all this, government influences everything.
2 minutes, yes, sir.
Government influences everything. It can influence you to be poor or you be rich. In the village, anybody will ask you, how, so you are waiting for government to give you money. If government makes good policies, you can be rich. If the policies are bad, you can be what? You can be poor. That's why I'm saying we must revisit our taxation policies in light of the technological gadgets that we of interest. For example, the phones, the computers, the laptops, the iPads. What is the cost of importing those gadgets in Uganda? In case you want them affordable. Number two,
subsidized prices.
Yes, exactly. Because one way you can have them cheaply, if you can't actually give them out, is make sure that the taxes are low, so that now the cost of having them here is what? Is cheaper. You know very well that these cars are very cheap outside. What increases their cost is what? The taxes. Now, we must make sure that we revise. Our policy-wise, we must deal with the taxation policy. Taxation policy. Number two,
the funding of these schools.
The funding of the schools, we must increase. It should be deliberate. We make education a priority, and especially this one in the funding. I told you one time that once government wants something, it will make sure it does it. And I give you an example that if you want to see how government reacts, is when it suspects you to be having weapons of massive destruction. In just a minute, they'll come for you.
Thank you so much.
Now, we must look at education like that, because we have agreed that we cannot be anything without what? Without education.
Okay, sir.
Then, this is important,
point,
and I need to emphasize it.
Yes.
And I need to re-emphasize it. Of recent, I looked at the proposed scale payment for teachers. It was quite impressive. I don't know, we had just talked about it, then it was released the following day.
I don't know what the science teachers?
I don't know whether the science teachers.
The science teachers.
Yes, I saw as if the scaling is trying to improve.
They were considering also ICT
as a science?
ICT.
I think so.
I think it also includes.
The arts teachers are still struggling.
They are still struggling. So we need to look at, we need to make education the most highly paying profession. True. Because if you don't do it like that, you're not attracting the best of the best. It should be one of the, let me tell you, in most of these countries that we're talking about, these teachers are paid very well. Education is looked at as a noble profession.
Our level of revenue, the revenue income, you're talking about taxes. And again, we also have a challenge of, the debt burden.
He's representing Kasaija. And for
but
me,
I was pleased to see
the
highly indebted countries I saw being listed, the top 20. Uganda is not among. It's not, which is we're just passing the threshold. I think we're just passing the threshold. We're just going past 51 around there. By last year, it was not too much big. But of course, you're not supposed to go there because that is a red line. Once you cross 50, it gets into a red zone. So for me, my issue is, as you defend Kasaija, I have not. How do you bring in the issue of
the wider perspective?
And for me, I'm speaking to Kasaija and group.
But he's right. It's about prioritizing. If
I am saying priority.
You can pay teachers well.
You can pay them well, and I've not told you they don't have money.
I'm not a spokesperson of government. My role here is to appreciate that there are challenges on the side of government, and we are saying that's our pocket.
That's why I was appreciating you for representing Kasaija.
Yes.
Of course, now he was crying that the consumption of beer has gone down. He was giving one of those reasons. The consumption of beer is down. That's why we had a deficit in February.
Yes, sir.
He was giving that as a point.
So is he encouraging the consumption of beer?
Of course, that is. I have it here. Consumption of beer has gone down.
But that raises the bill of the Ministry of Health.
So for me, of course, that's not a discussion for another day. Unless we do the policy issues well, we can talk about this, but once the policy is wrong, we cannot get there. Government must be deliberate in what it is doing to promote education digitally. But like we were saying, time has gone where we can continue learning. It is called analog. Analog learning. It's not there.
Analog learning. Let's take that point.
Time has ended.
Analog learning, digital. We are appreciating all those ideas, and we need.
And this will promote
forward.
Employment. Like you said, you cannot actually even be here and work from here.
It promotes employment.
It promotes employment. It promotes research. It promotes, innovation. All that, provided our structures, our systems are in place. The systems are in
So
place.
dear viewers of Smart Television, we are emphasizing this and encouraging that let it be a corporate responsibility. The parents need to play a role. The government should play a role.
Right.
Here there was a role to be played also by the institutions of higher learning and secondary schools. In the systems at hand, I also made an input. I said we should have a budget by which is clearly known that this is our commitment to digital and ICT, so that we don't have only good policies which are in paper and they cannot easily be implemented. Policy quantification is important. Sir, you're welcome, Dr. Kavela. We still need
the teacher.
You are a teacher.
Yes.
And we are facing a challenge. You are teachers and also those whom you supervise. I'm not talking about those of Victoria University. It is a serious challenge. When a new education curriculum was declared, the launch of the new education curriculum, indeed it emphasized on ICT and digital, but there were also other part of the content that was alongside taken care of to change the method of teaching and this kind of putting on heavy burden upon our students, take too much notes, do this. There was a number of policy advice and reforms given. How can we bridge the gap? We are still having a question on our teachers, who are also, most of them, have not quantified it. I don't want to create bias before viewers, but out of 100%, I'm still not yet comfortable whether the 60% of our lecturers and teachers are purely digital and ICT literate to respond to the current challenges, both during the previous time we passed through, referring to the time of COVID, and now. Sir, you're welcome, please. You have your point of view.
Okay, thank you so much once again, Dr.
5
Kiyewa.
minutes, sir.
Yes, I am approaching this topic in a very, in a different way. Look, there is something called perceived demagoguery and perceived ignorance.
And you will break it down,
and it is
Told you he's a teacher.
Good.
and it is eating us up so much.
Yes, sir.
It is affecting our performance as teachers. It is performing. Dr. Mganga was very clear when he was talking about stakeholders. My brother Kawanguzi also talked about stakeholders. So the perceived demagoguery is at the central government level. We know it, so we should think for the general populace. The perceived ignorance, it is what the central government level tend to think as regards to our parents, our teachers. They sit in their very beautiful ACs and offices and think for the entire nation. But in countries, I can give you an example.
Assuming they have them.
Yeah. And I can give you an example of a country like China. China, many people will wake up and tell you it's an autocratic nation, but they have governance. Even at a community LOC one, they have a person responsible for education at a community level, a community which could have probably a population of, with the size of China, maybe let's say a population has 100 and something people, a community, a particular LOC, but they have someone who's responsible for education, at representing the government, but representing also the households at the community level. Before a policy is passed at the central government level, it has been discussed at community level, it is then discussed at sub-county level, county level, district level, provincial level, and so a parent is very much aware of what is going to be
Implemented.
People tend to think that people who are supposed, the children who can have access to a university education are children from the high class or affluent families and homes. But a parent who has been involved in education, however poor that person is able to even provide that gadget that many of us are actually thinking is going to impede the implementation of ICT and digital. If at all our government, if at all our policymakers can go deep down there and involve and empower the what? The parents. But because of the perceived demagoguery, thinking that they can think for the entire world. Now, the so-called perceived ignorant people are also resisting, and it is really, really compromising the wider participation. Before you even think about ICT, I'm sorry, the first time I presented, you cut me short. I was trying to give you, if you want to understand and define the future, we should so much dwell on the history. We should not forget history. It is very important for us to shape the future. So before we think of ICT, developing content that is applicable for our human resource to gain a competitive edge on the global market, we've got to think about participation.
Participation.
In education.
Who participates?
Children taking part in education.
Yes.
In my own village where I was born from, I think for the last 10 years there is no children who has studied up to senior 6. A village, the same village where I was born in Nabari.
Up to senior 6?
Up to senior 6. The same village where I was born in Nabari.
You need to go back.
Yes, I've been
You need
there.
to go back because this is bad.
I'm being real.
This is bad news.
I'm being real. I don't think there is a student who has studied up to senior 6 for the last 10 years. In that same village.
Which district is that?
In Mitiana district.
Mitiana.
Oh.
And
The
very
same
close.
village of Nabara. I don't mean Chibuto because there are families that are quite okay. They understand education very well. But that same village, I don't think. Right? So we are here talking about digital learning. We are talking about ICT. We are not mindful about taking lead in education, taking part in education. The minister recently, I think last year, she was worried. She was concerned about the rate of dropout rates in eastern Uganda. We are not talking about that. So we are at risk of creating a class system against a classless system. But have we taken time to study and establish the underlying reasons why the rate of dropout rate is high? Before we sit in our ACs to begin coming up with very important policies, but to influence education participation.
So you are saying there are some of the challenges that should be taken care of first.
Exactly. There are so many things. We are trying to run very fast. In as much as I understand the world is also moving at a very skyrocketing speed, we need to think very fast to be able to fit in the world that is moving. But we shouldn't forget that. Getting back to the point of what can we do to make sure that this new curriculum, ICT, teachers are empowered. It begins with training of trainers. I was in Makerere recently when COVID had just during COVID, and there is a very prominent professor who has his 2 degrees from USA, professor, very old man, and we're discussing about online learning, and he's saying, that's bullshit. That's what he said. He said, even me, who is a graduate from the best universities in the USA, I don't know because I studied a long time ago. I don't know these things. They have not trained us on how to teach, to facilitate teaching and learning using these new digital gadgets.
Platforms, yeah.
Or platforms. So before we come up with this, what strategies are we having in as far as empowering Ponsha and Kabera, who is going to face your student? And I teach him using this approach. Do I really know what exactly I'm going to do?
Your recommendation as we conclude on that?
So my recommendation is the government or those responsible should try as much as they can to make sure that they do rigorous training to teacher trainers.
Teacher trainers.
Yes, to teacher trainers, to trainers. Right? Because for me, I'm a teacher trainer. I'm training teachers or future secondary school teachers who are going to teach in secondary school. So I'm a teacher trainer.
A question, can't we make it also as a policy recommendation that every secondary school teacher, before you are given a job, this should be ministry work, of course, now I'm giving my input, should be computer literate?
But this one is talking about refresher training.
Refresher training.
Yeah, I think that is what he was trying to emphasize.
Okay, you can conclude it as we
go. So these refresher trainings are very important in ascertaining or solidifying or making us equipped with the relevant skills to facilitate teaching and learning using whatever approach. And I can also get back. We talked about competence-based learning.
Competence-based.
Competence-based learning. it's a curriculum that has been around, and I am a little disappointed that many people, including the headmasters and administrators, do not really understand it very well.
Yes,
So that is what we are talking about here. That we wake up and sit in our S's, pass these policies. They are very, very, very important. But how much have we grounded them at a grassroots level? You get my point? I have my cousin brother. I brought him to you, Dr. Mganga. He takes pictures. He has whatever, where he takes pictures of weddings and all that.
Yes,
He's a photographer. He can create you. I spent 4 years, I wasted 4 years studying mathematics, physics, and science. A child in China will join secondary and you know, okay, my interests are in biology. A boy will study biology, and by the time he finishes university, he's an expert already.
One question for you. Now at Victoria University,
Yes.
you are the head of department. May I know, for purpose of also appreciating if it is so, and maybe encouraging other universities also to do so, to do what? To make it compulsory for those who are undertaking courses to be before finishes, because I had come across this kind of the course units. As you know, I'm a senior lecturer for a number of good years, around 10 years. But you find that
celebrating Yulubi
aha.
So,
It's a decorated general.
So you find that there is a course unit of computer literacy. But the course of computer literacy is to do some tests. People are given marks. I mean the students. I was the students over there. Given marks, I scored 60, 70, but still cannot address these ICT issues. In terms of like, to find like the other packages, as you know, computer, to be literate, to know that you can really address the common challenges. It is a challenge.
Dr. Tindyewa,
It is a challenge.
Dr. Lawrence knows that in the course of EPM, one of those key course units is computer. It's actually called computer.
Computer skills. But now, as
Very tiresome.
I will give
Very
it to
tough.
him.
Doctor.
Yes, sir.
Computer skills.
Okay, respond on it as we welcome, Doctor,
Yes.
for 3 minutes,
Yes.
2 minutes, 2
Computer-
minutes as we conclude
computer
our
skill-
program.
Computer skill is part of our curriculum. Is within our program. Any teacher, any student who is at Victoria in the faculty of education and lifelong learning has got to do that.
My question is still very
So
deliberate. Do
I-
they get the skills or it's only the marks?
I listened to you.
Yes, sir.
Talking something to do with marks.
It's
right?
just one
Related
is
to-
given 70, but still it is
Now-
difficult.
Now
to,
that takes us back to content delivery. You get? You can have the 60%, but when you're placed before a computer, you begin shivering. Where did you get these marks? It takes us back to content delivery and assessment. What is your relationship with this vice chancellor? Is not a joke. He will get to your nerves to establish the genesis of these marks. For a student who claims to be doing computer science,
But
he
cannot operate.
operate a computer.
and the packages,
And-
the common packages.
Exactly, but we have different senates, we have different platforms for passing the results before they are delivered to the students. You must qualify for these particular results that a particular student.
Thank you so much.
Student got. But moving forward, we've got to, in order for ICT and digital education to be fully implemented, right? We've got, our government must be at the helm of this thing beyond policy making level. We must have community laboratories and libraries.
Community
Laboratories and libraries in developed countries that are influencing these fundamental technological ideas. They have established
At
this.
which level? Consequences, sub-county or
We
district?
can, it is upon the budget that we have. We can put it at sub-county level, we can put it at county level. Even to developed economies, they put it at community levels.
Still, that is under
So,
policy.
Yes, still under
Please,
policy.
the point is well articulated. Dear viewers on Smart Television, at 24 Television, you are reminded that that's the way to go. We should take.
Just a second, Doctor.
Yes, please.
Just a second. To the people of Busuju, where I come from.
Yes, please.
To the people of Busuju, the moment I get the opportunity to be the champion, I must make sure that the years I will be there, each sub-county will have a community laboratory and a community library. Because I'm an educationist, and my guinea must begin from there to ascertain education, participation, retention, and completion.
Doctor, you have given us, a promise which is very good. And very soon I will be alongside Dr. Mugenga, and we are going to ensure that you can have that we call it what? At least, a center. Because you, as a doctor, as a PhD holder, there should be some sample. And I believe you can afford to have like 3 computers. You set a small place, and then at least you can serve the community.
At different level, primary, secondary.
Please, Doctor, you are welcome, Vice Chancellor again. We are drawing towards the close of our program. You will use 2 minutes, all of us. But now, as we seal, put a seal, not the last point, but not the end of it, because we are a work in progress.
Right.
Human development, it's always a work in progress.
Continuous improvement.
Even America is still developing, much as they say it's developed. So what is your key stake, the key point that you want to leave with the viewers that will make things happen and we move forward? You are welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tindiebwa. And let me take this opportunity to first of all thank you for giving us the opportunity to come here and share the views that we think are developmental to society with the viewers of Smart 24 TV. Management, kudos to you to be pro-education. I wish so many other people in the media were giving attention. And this is where we start from. Intentionally prioritizing education, such these narratives, the conversations go to the hearts of people, such that they tend to now know what to advocate for, right? So Smart TV, I give it to you. So thank you very much. Now moving forward, now let me again come to you, the viewers. Today it is 26th, right? March 2022. There is research, plenty of research out there, that by 2030, the jobs we know now may not, 60% of the jobs we know now may not exist. And you know the common denominator that is wiping them out? It is the digital economy. Being able to have digital literacies, being able to have skills related to IT, ICT. Now, if your child is going through an education system, going to school, and IT or technology is not part of the do on a daily basis, you have not given a greater inheritance to this new generation that is coming. So just food for thought. But now what can we do? There are so many things that are very, very basic. Again, like my brother, Paul, very well articulated. I don't even want to repeat what he said. That is what, listening to policy analysts and practitioners like him, I get hope that maybe one day we will get where we are supposed to be. Government and all of us, the focus should be on the teacher right now. And it is possible. There are so many areas where we spend money that we can reorient to the development of a teacher, to the empowerment of the teacher, to ensure that the teachers now decolonize education and take back education and do what they were supposed to do in the first place. And then, as government, also look into this myth of an exam that has intimidated the entire country, that does not contribute to the production of the human capital this country needs, or this world needs. How do you start examining at a national level, for example, a 12-year-old, and you sit them in a room for 2 hours to do a PLE exam, and you ask them to remember everything they studied in the last 7 years? That is inhuman. We have to walk away from those exams. If we can empower teachers, they can start assessing these students and the Ministry of Education can collect the results. We talk about equity in education. I love how they use equity, not equality. Equity. We talk about equity. We could even move it to equality. We want to have a school in Chiriandongo, you talked about, be able to produce a credible candidate student who matches a student who went in a school in Kampala. How do you do that? You make sure that education is localized. These students, the education looks or caters for the environment these students are in. Education must be real world. People should be placed in their environment, solving problems of where they are. That's when they tend to understand the reason why they are even in school. Therefore, my call to everyone watching, especially policy practitioners out there, and anyone who has been blessed by an opportunity to sit in a particular office, as Dr. Kabera was alluding to earlier, should think about education in the following ways. That learning should be by doing.
Learning should be by doing. Yes.
Learning should be experiential.
Experiential.
And this should be driven by technology.
Thank you so much.
Because that's the world we live in.
Thank you so much, Doctor. We are blessed to have been with you in this talk show. And again, we will come. We promise to give you another invitation. But we appreciate...
With a cup of tea.
That one is obvious. We are generous people, Smart 24. And we appreciate for the scholarships. We believe...
In every constituency of this country.
So 10
bursaries to students that need help.
So dear viewers, he said whenever you want them, Google, you will get Victoria University and the scholarships.
And this is where I thank our partners, the Ruparelia Foundation, that made us make this happen.
This information, unfortunately, is not known. Some members have not.
Now it is known.
Yes,
this is a national television.
So we look for partners here. We look for partners.
We already partner with you.
Yeah, we need to.
And in the process, as we do the partnership, even to tell us how you do it in the class.
We need to partner with you, Smart 24, and for us to be able to produce experiential learning.
Thank you.
Right?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Mr. Paul, you have 1 minute because of time. I'm worried, and I know all has been said. You are just giving your last word. 1 minute and 1 minute as you go.
Yeah, thank you so much. Maybe just to emphasize one comment made by Dr. Kabera. There is nothing you can do in this country unless it has gone through a policy document. The biggest policy document we have is the budget. So there is nothing, you said, so whatever you're talking about must go through a policy process. And that's why for me my emphasis is there. So, he brought in a very good point of emphasizing even public access to technology skills and education. Because, the public can use technology, for example, to make money, to market their produce. That's why he was emphasizing technological hubs on ground, that we can go. I am happy that this government is adopting the parish model. Hope this can be one of the components of the parish model, so that every parish can have a technological lab or hub, call it a lab or hub, computer. So just to summarize, I want to thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. We've said a lot of things here. What remains to be seen is the will of government in implementing this and also doing the first things first. There is a problem. Some things are implemented politically. Simply because you want people to see you politically and get votes, you may implement the third phase instead of the first phase. I think you're getting the whole thing. So we must have the first things done first. For example, if you're talking about ICT, make sure that you invest in the infrastructure. Invest there. Yes. Deal with the provision of the gadgets. Because you must take a decision. Are you going to distribute freely to every student, or they are going to buy?
So much.
Because they are going to buy, then they must be cheap and affordable. How about the data? So the internet must be fast running. Yes. So once we do all the things and do the things fast, we shall get there.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paul Kawanguzi, our policy analyst expert. And we continue to benefit dear viewers from all that, analytical point of view that is to guide policy direction and call upon all stakeholders, countrymen and countrywomen, how best we can make things happen. Thank you. We welcome you in 1 minute as you give your last word.
Thank you so much.
Yes, please.
And I also want to thank Dr. Mganga, who introduced me to you and brought me here
Yes, sir.
to share my knowledge. All I can say is that the government has the willingness. The mere fact that they can come up with this kind of policy, the willingness is there, and let's wait for the implementation. And as key policy contributors like us, academicians and the general populace, the players, we should continuously remind them.
Doctor, I will leave you with the debt.
Of course,
there's a debt I will leave with you.
Of course, to all teacher enthusiasts out there, I call upon you to join Victoria University, Kanokaita Osebo. We have an education technology hub, whereby technology hub at Victoria University. Before that was in the second semester. Before you go out there to start practicing, doing school practice, we take you through that process. The whole semester, you go out there when you know how to teach technologically, when you know all the teaching areas, all those sort of things. We teach them at Victoria University, so don't hesitate to join us. I am your head, many of you, I'm probably your elder brother. I could be older than you by a few years. We can associate, we can really talk on heart-to-heart matters to do with education and how you can be helped to become a better teacher. All that is offered at Victoria University. Come join us, come ready to learn, and live ready to practice.
Thank you so much. Is there a reason why we should go to Victoria University?
Oh yeah, why not? Let me tell you. Let me tell you, every viewer that is out there, I know you wish your brother, your sister, your child the best in the future, right? And the future starts now. So if you're looking for a degree, a diploma, a master's degree, and very soon a PhD, that will make you fit in the fourth industrial revolution, in the digital economy. You want to live in a creative economy. You want to learn by doing. You want to experience what we call experiential learning and work-integrated learning, where you learn by actually even working. You live with 2 years or 3 years of experience. So you may not even look for a job because you will have one. Then look no further. Come to Victoria University, where we have empowered people. When we are in a crisis where you have set to study online, you have free education data. When you need a textbook to go through your learning, you have a free textbook. And now you can attain or access a laptop that you can afford to be able to become digitally competent.
Yes.
Learning to us is driven by technology. So let me thank a few people, and I encourage them actually to come to Smart TV and work with them. You guys support education, and I'm very, very much impressed. Recently, we worked with MTN, right, to try to also provide decent education to some few Ugandans that we could afford to support. And education, MTN supported also, gave us an opportunity to have free access to data on some of the education websites and everything, that technologies that we are using, right? So this is a TV that is supporting education. So MTN, you know where to go when you want to reach the country when we are talking about education or even supporting other businesses. So come to Victoria University, like Dr. Kavera said. We are going to handhold you. We are, I think, the only university in this country where you, as a student, you come in and we assign you an advisor from the word go. And they will mentor you, they will work with you. If you have any project you're working on and everything, they are going to support you all through.
Thank you so much, sir.
So thank you for the opportunity.
We appreciate you so much. And we are now in the digital education. Please don't remain behind. And that's the reason why we come before you to remind you, dear parents over there, that the other revolution, the second.
Yeah, the first, second, third are gone.
Are gone. Now we must walk the talk and we'll be in this revolution. We appreciate for our guests to have come, to have honored our invitation. And we appreciate also the promise. I believe even including some of our staff who may be in need of improving, the education here, they will get some scholarship, Mr. Dr. Muganga. That's a good promise.
And we talk.
And also, we will also hope that we will continue to partner with you. To have you here is deliberate. Indeed, we support education. And we promise that some of the programs we're not able to, to list outside there for viewers to be able to know we are interested. And as I told you, to make sure that we advertise all your programs so that the viewers, they can decide or, take a choice. Until we meet next time, thank you, dear viewers, for staying tuned on Smart 24, the best TV you can get information. Education is wealth, and it's the backbone of the economy. Equally as we say that agriculture is the backbone of the economy. Thank you so much.
Smart 24, driving business.
Every new day brings